Welcome to this week's YouTube vlog from Button All Burner Services, and I hope everyone is okay this week. As always, thanks for everyone that subscribed and the comments, brilliant comments last week. We do really appreciate it as always. So moving swiftly on to this week's vlog, I'm going to do something a bit different. We're going to talk about valves. People might think it's boring, but motorised valves, because I've been asked a few times about it lately, about two-port valves and stuff like that. I've had a little bit in the comments as well, and they were basically saying, like, you know, diagnosing valves when they fail, especially two-ports. How do you know it's a valve? You know, what do you do? What do you check? So I'm sort of going to show you that. I'm actually going to one now which has got a hot water problem, so I'm really praying it is going to be a valve, because then I can show you. There's different versions of valves. Obviously you've got the 3-port, the 2-port, etc, but I'm going to concentrate on the 2-port valve today and different variations of them. So for example, you can have Honeywell has a synchron motor inside that you can replace, so they're quite repairable. And then you have Danfoss ones, which unfortunately they have their own problems as well, which we can go through. And then I can show you a new version, an EPH one, where it has a light that lights up and stuff like that. Yes, there's loads of others, Draytons and loads of other ones, Siemens and all that, but they're the three I'm going to concentrate on and give you a bit of an overview, so people can just start to understand and diagnose problems. Because what I'm finding more and more is that people are going to houses and people are just saying, oh yeah, your heating's not working, bang a valve on. Okay, and then it either fixes it and it's cost the customer a fortune, or it hasn't fixed it because it's something totally different. Okay, so I'm just going to show you the basic wiring, a few very basic checks for you to do. And as I say, especially a Honeywell, you can change the synchron motor inside the valve instead of changing the whole valve head or the whole valve unit complete. So it's going to save the customer lots of money, and it's going to make you look just a little bit better that you've actually looked at the components inside a bit more. So that's what we're going to be doing. So I'm going to crack on and I will see you at the job. So here I am. That's upstairs heating valve, downstairs heating valve, and this is a hot water valve here. Wiring centre. Please don't panic about all the wires. A lot of the time you've got to think there's 3 motorised valves going in here. Immediately, you know, you've got 15 wires straight away there. Okay, and the rest is just what's coming from the programmer to the boiler to the pump, stuff like that. So it always looks worse than what it is. And with wiring centres where there's lots of chock blocks in there, just fold the wires out. It makes it easier. Anyway, let's crack on, because we know we've got a hot water fault. Timer is off at the moment. I'm just going to press boost. Boosted. Okay, so what we now expect is for the hot water valve to open. We go on here, it's not opening. If I was to zoom it across quick like this and go there, the pump goes on and off. So we know that the motorised valve would work if the motor inside's working. This catches a lot of people out. What people tend to do is go, oh yeah, you want a motorised valve, and they change a head or a complete unit, drain down, loads of money. It's not necessary. It's just a few basic checks on the system first. So 1, is the timer on? 2, we know the timer's on, so we look down here. The thermostat is turned up. Number 3 is on this motorised valve to power the little synchron motor, as they call them inside here. It has to be alive, coming from the brown wire into it. So the brown wire is here. This is from the cylinder. I just put my meter in. There you go. Okay, so that's live. So we now know there's live getting to the little synchron motor. If we go onto the oranges on the other side, is that's not live. And the reason it's not live is because the motor inside has to spin, hit a micro switch that I'll show you later, and then power it up. So let's recap really quickly. If you get a brown wire that goes to your motorised valve and it's live, but the motor inside is not turning, and then like before we spin that across quickly, we look and the pump go live, we know it's a synchron motor inside, and that's what we need to change. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. One synchron motor. These are about 15-20 quid if you get a good one at the most. So this is a lot better than paying all that money for that valve. They're really simple to do. I know people get worried about electrics, but they're very straightforward. So what's in the box? Spin it over. There it is. One motor, two leads, as simple as that. And what fell down here is a couple of connectors. So I'm just going to kill the power to the system, safe isolation. We're going to get this cap off and I'll show you how to change one. As you say, safely isolated. There's a little grub screw there. You don't have to take it right out, just undo it a couple of turns. And then top and bottom, away. On the later ones of these, there's also like an earth strap as well, so it ends up hanging down here. Right, I'm going to zoom in. Move the wire out of the way. There we go. You need to lock the valve in the lock position. So over, across, lock. Okay, that needs to stay in the lock position. And then there is a tiny little, if I can find it to show you, just pull these wires back here. Then zoom back a little bit. Untwist these two wires. And behind here, just there, is a little screw. So if I zoom back, it's in that position there. Okay, we're just going to undo that and I'll be back. As you can see, it's undone. So we're in the lock position and the screw's undone. We now get hold of the main body of the valve and we twist to the left and we gently wiggle and it comes out. And as you can see, it leaves two wires. Doesn't matter which way around the wires are when you reconnect them. So I'm going to snip just here and I'm going to snip just here and then I'll be changing the motor. Make sure we're still in the lock position we are. There's the little synchron part there, which is your gear wheel, and it basically goes on there. So I'm going to zoom back again. We put it in, we find the hole. It can be a bit of a fiddle sometimes, like so, and then we slip it into there and then we do the grub screw up again. So I'm just going to take it out of the manual position, and as you can see, that returns back lovely, so we know it's working. Okay, so it's all connected up, etc. Just going to make sure the stat's turned up still, which it is. I'm going to whip round the other side. I did just put the power on a minute ago, and let's just press boost again. There we go. Okay, so what I'm hoping now, if I just put my hand on here, I can feel it motorising over, and in a few seconds, up to 10 seconds, boom, there you go. So it's now sending a signal, powering the orange wire up, and obviously firing the pump. Okay, that's the basis of what you do to stop you having just to change your valve. So I'm going to leave this now, put it back together, happy customer. I'm going to go back to the workshop and I'm going to go back a step and strip that back a bit more, because this can confuse people. I know it seems a bit OCD, but why should people be changing valves when they can just change the bit in the middle? Because there's normally nothing wrong with the valve itself. All right, so yeah, I'll get on in my van, get on a journey, and I'll be back in a sec. I'm in the workshop. I'm going to try my hardest to explain this. So here's 3 variations of valve. The Honeywell I've just come from, I've clamped that one down because I'm going to show you a bit more about that one. That's the one I've just been doing. That's an EPH one, which you have an LED on there and that has a separate lead. And there's your common Danfoss HPA2, which is, yeah, pretty common. Okay, so we'll go back to where I've just been, the Honeywell one. When you're diagnosing, the best thing to do is get familiarised with this, the wiring. Okay, a good way, the way I used to do it, is I used to write it down so I knew what was going on. So the rule of thumb on a 2-port valve is this. Sorry about the writing. The grey wire is your permanent live. Okay, it's not the brown, it's grey. Okay, now this is something that people find a bit strange, because obviously they're used to brown being live, blue being neutral, and green or green and yellow being earth. All right, so grey is live. So the first thing you look for before you turn anything on is there a live supply to the valve? Yes, grey wire. Okay, neutral is blue, green and yellow is earth, like I just said. Then what you do is you look at the brown. So the brown is the live from the programmer when it's turned on. Okay, voila, brown. Okay, and then your orange is the switch live. So the way it works is that there, obviously you have a permanent live there all the time, your neutral and your earth. And then the idea is that we'll just pop the top off here. Like I said earlier, this one's attached. There's, in this case, a synchron motor. It's in all of them, but these ones you can't get into. Okay, so it's slightly different. So here's your synchron motor. So the brown wire livens up, the synchron motor spins. As it turns the mechanism in here. And then on the other side is a tiny little micro switch, and it's hit by a lever. Once it's hit by the lever, it livens the orange wire up. The orange wire is what powers the pump and the boiler, etc, etc. That's the basics. There is variations. You see here I've got white with a question mark. The white is when that powers down, it then puts the live into the white wire, which is for other accessories and stuff like that. But we're not going to go into that. So when you turn up at a job and a heating or hot water is not working, check the obvious stuff. Does the programmer work? When you switch it on, do you get a live to the brown wire? Is there already a live to the grey, blue and the green, or green and yellow on the earth? If all the above is yes, but it's not powering the orange wire, then clearly that motor's gone, which I showed you how to change. And we'll reiterate, you slide over, lock it in position. There's a tiny little screw down there. You undo it, twist it, take it off, change 2 wires, done. Okay, that is as simple as that on that. The good thing about the Honeywell valve is clearly that's changeable. Okay, so obviously it's a cheaper thing to repair. The other thing that can happen to these on the later ones, because I don't know what happened to Honeywell, maybe they're cheaper, I don't know, is that there's a little lever underneath and it bends so it doesn't hit the micro switch. That's the most 2 common problems on these. The downside of the Honeywell is when you motorise it over manually, it doesn't automatically power it up to see if the actual boiler and that does fire and work. You literally have to get the lever here and zoom it across just to make it quickly flick on and off. Let's jump over to the Danfoss. The Danfoss, obviously 2 screws hold it on. It's a sealed unit, but nice and straightforward. With this one, if you motorise it open, like so, and hold it in the on position like so, what happens is it automatically powers the orange wire up. So if that was to fail and not work, you can manually override it, and then the customer still gets heating and hot water, whatever it is, until obviously you come back. But bearing in mind, if you do it on a hot water cylinder, it's going to take the temperature of the boiler, not the temperature of the hot water thermostat. All right, so just be careful of that. Downside of the Danfoss is that they have a really, really common problem. So the customer says, oh, the programmer's off, everything's turned off, and the boiler's running, the pump's running, etc, etc, etc. That's because the micro switches in these, it's really common for it to get stuck. So the best way to check that, if you come to a boiler where everything seems to be running but everything's turned off, then you pull the orange wires here, because there'll be 1 or 2 or 3, however many valves you've got. You pull them all out of the wiring centre and you put your meter on them one at a time. Eventually you will find the one that's live, that shouldn't be live, and then clearly that's failed. Okay, obviously take the top off, make sure there's no leaks on the little stem that's on the 2-port valve body, and make sure that's not seized. That's obvious stuff, but 9 times out of 10 it's this. EPH valves. With an EPH valve, they're quite clever. We've fitted a lot more of these lately. When the brown wire becomes live, it actually puts a light onto here. So it's now done half the work for you. So if your programmer's on and that's livened up, this is all working. It's obviously there's a failure in the motor if the orange wire is not becoming live. In that case, you have to change it. On these, they're very clever and very easy. I'll turn it around in this case. There's a small screw there. You undo the screw, and then there's a little clip there. You push it, you shake, he says, and it comes off. Simple as that. Okay, and then you can just unclip and clip on the wire. That's why we love these. You can get these in conversions, so you've got a version for Danfoss, you've got a conversion for Honeywell. You just put a little like conversion plate on the top, so they're brilliant. So this is how easy these are, and to put them back together, you literally motorise over, lock it in position, and then I am trying to do this one-handed. You basically put that in there, click, and it clicks on again. So that's your 3 types of valves. Okay, so to go through it without getting too boring, what you're looking for is that there's a permanent live to the grey, there's a neutral, there's an earth. The brown wire becomes live from the programmer. Clearly it's got to go through thermostats and stuff like that, but essentially that should be live. And then obviously once it's motorised over, you've got the orange wire. So, for example, if you put the timer on and the brown wire is not live, then you're looking at supply from the programmer. Is it correct? Is actually the wireless room thermostat working, or the normal room thermostat, or is the cylinder stat working? It's nothing to do with the valve, and that's where people make mistakes. So that is the key one. Is the brown powering up? As well as making sure they work, is the brown powering up? So I always go straight to a system, power it up, turn it on. I stick my meter on there. If there's live on the brown wire, I double check the grey, but normally the grey is linked into where all the programmer and that is anyway, so it will be live. And then I can go on from there. So that is an overview of 2-port valves, and that's how they work. So I hope it's helped. It's quite hard to explain it, and when I was trying to show you earlier very clearly, I was trying to do it in a bit of a cupboard as well, and yeah, I had a frog in my throat, which didn't help either. So there we go. That is an overview on your 2-port valves for you. Oh, blimey. Are we all still awake? Yeah, sorry about that. On a serious note, got my coffee, is the most important thing. But yeah, 2-port valves, I hope that's really helped you. Basic understanding of the wiring. There is lots of variation if you have open firm and stuff like that. But I'm just hoping this is going to encourage people just to like do some basic diagnosis. Don't just throw a valve on, you know, have the confidence to change a synchron motor. You can do it in 10 minutes. It's that easy. Okay, so yeah, I really hope some people do start to use that. And I'm sorry if it's a boring subject, but you know what? Sometimes things just have to be boring to get it in your head. But there we go. Anyway, feel free to comment as always. And everyone, have a great weekend. And until next time, as always, stay safe.